What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. I'm bringing a topic right to you today that, well, unfortunately not a lot of tow truck drivers, semi-truck drivers, construction workers, anybody who kind of works on the road tends not to fully agree with each other on this. And essentially the premise kind of goes like this, that if you're wearing Hi-Vis or you're using your, amber truck beacons or, amber and white construction lights, whatever, that it makes you more of a target for somebody who may be inebriated or not paying attention. Personally, I don't fully agree with this, and I have lots of stuff to talk about. But first, I want to bring a quote that I found, and it's from Jeff Tagg, owner of Tagg's Extreme Towing and Boosting. Tow truck drivers are on the same level as the slime between your toes or worms as far as people care. The only people that care about tow truck drivers are tow truck drivers. And I think a lot of you drivers out there, if I don't know if this is maybe just an Indiana thing, but a lot of us, we drive past each other, we wave, and we don't know them, not personally at least, but we know what they go through. And well, that's why I want to try and see if we can get something going here. So to start off, I am not going to go through the laws of every single state because they do kind of vary on when you use them, when you can't use them, what color they are, and the brightness levels and all of that. So basically I'm just going to stick with Indiana's because that's where I'm from and that's what I'm used to. And Indiana kind of, it's very, I don't know, it's like cookie cutter. A lot of the same things that you see in Indiana is kind of what you see nationwide, but there are some variations in between. Essentially, tow truck is required to have amber lights, forward and rear facing amber lights, and they have to, be a actual tow vehicle. So with that in mind, I know one of the first things that comes to most people's mind as well, some people just have really, really bright lights, or they're driving Christmas tree trucks or something to that effect. And well, personally, I don't drive a truck with that many lights on it. I do have front visors, and then I have a light bar attached to the actual headache rack that moves with the bed.
Nice.
So, in my defense, I use those visor lights because if I have a situation where my bed is completely extended and the light bar is back there, you're not going to see it from the front, and well, I still want some kind of front lighting. So with that being said, it is what it is. I don't personally see a whole lot of drivers that put a lot of lights or really extremely bright lights on there, but it happens, and I think there are good reasons, but there's also limits. So let's see. Let's go over some talking points about tow truck driver deaths. This is something we don't like talking about, but it's important to note, I think, that the annual average fatality rate of nearly 43 deaths per 100,000 workers. So it doesn't seem like a lot, and in reality, it's pretty on the low side, but it's not a number that we like to talk about. It's not something that we like to see, and these things do happen more often than you think. And whether it's a actual death or not is kind of one thing, I suppose. But if you're injured and you're pretty mangled up from I don't know, a semi or something, yeah, you survive, but you don't have legs. Well, that's kind of an issue. So why am I telling you this? Well, this is an important topic, and it affects tow truck drivers all around the world every day. Every time we're out on the road, we're putting our lives at risk, and a lot of these things, well, it hits home. Some of us have lost people. We've known people who've gotten hurt, and it's good to know whether or not these things actually make a difference, because there's a lot of people out there that say these things, and I personally think they're completely the opposite. So one of the first studies I actually want to talk about comes from NORIS, National Occupational Injury Research Symposium. And basically, if you want to pause at any time and read this entire thing yourself, feel free. But I am going over B4.1, officer struck by a motorhome while establishing temporary traffic control. Essentially, what happens here is a motorhome was not paying attention and struck in, unfortunately killed a officer while he was managing a jackknife semi on the expressway. And what this study pretty much shows is, obviously they, had their lights on. There was a DOT helper truck. If you're from Indiana, NDOT, or Illinois is also NDOT. Michigan is like MDOT, something to that effect. They're generally vehicles that have some type of aero board. They help with like tire changes, all that. I'll put a picture of what one generally looks like. And one of these trucks was also on scene attempting to assist with traffic control, but they had placed their vehicles in kind of a weird way that from what I understand of reading the report, that I guess it may have been possibly confusing for somebody who may not have been fully paying attention, which unfortunately this is kind of what happened. So what this does show is that indeed you can have all of the lights and Hi-Vis and everything in the world on, and yes, you still can get struck. Well, why is that, right? I think that has to do with, well, the human condition, rather, because whether or not they pay attention is the key factor. If they are looking and observing what's going on and they see this, there's a, in my opinion at least, a higher chance than not that they're going to act accordingly. But if they aren't paying attention at all, there's nothing you can do or say that will change that fact. And unfortunately, that's a risk that a lot of us drivers take every single day that we're out on the road. So if you go through this, you'll see that they kind of put the blame on the positioning of the officer's vehicle, and that there was a gap that this motorhome could have drove in between, and that was the main cause. Obviously, the driver of the motorhome was, found to not be paying attention, and you can imagine how that can cause its own issues all by itself. So I have another study that I want to talk about, and this one will be also fairly short. It's from the National Cooperative Highway Research Program report number 476. And this is guidelines for design and operation, blah, blah, blah. You can read. So a lot of what this talks about is how you use the lights and how not to. What you'll see in here, it talks about the brightness of the lights, which I kind of touched on a little bit. I do believe that if your particular lights are so incredibly bright, that they're blinding people, well, that's, obviously going to cause issues. A lot of our tow trucks, especially the flatbeds, they are equipped with some sort of deck light or work light or whatnot. And when you're using these, if you're using them in a fashion where it's like pointed at traffic, it can be kind of an issue. So I'm going to show you some experiences that I've actually had while on the road, and we'll talk about it from there. So on this scene here, I'm actually on a 2-lane state highway. It's about 55 to 75 miles per hour on here. It's clearly raining, and it's about, I think, either 11:30 or midnight. So the vehicle's got its own flashers. I have my ambers, and I also have a Guardian Angel device that's magnetic stuck onto the driver's side of the vehicle that I'm towing there, that caravan or whatever. You can't really see it just because of the curvature of the vehicle and the angle of my camera, but it is on. So this is something that I think is pretty clear. You'll see a lot of these vehicles actually do move over. It doesn't always happen, and all of us drivers, we all, deal with that frustration of, come on, just move over. It keeps me safe. But obviously I have a Hi-Vis jacket. To be honest, it was it was the only jacket I had at the moment, so it's a little big on me, but nevertheless, it is Hi-Vis. I got the ambers going, and so I'm thinking, really, this is the best way I could go about it. So I've seen the argument that you should just have your hazards on, or something to that effect, so it doesn't, create this reason for somebody to stop, or want to slow down and take pictures, or something to the effect. And yeah, that obviously is an issue, but you deal with that on accident scenes. I mean, the police deal with it, firefighters deal with it, and you'll see if you've ever worked an accident scene where that's an issue, you'll see the police tend to not really mess around with that for too long. So in this situation, I can guarantee that if I had the amber lights off and I was not wearing Hi-Vis, I'd be severely putting myself at risk, even if I just had the vehicle's hazards on. So you tell me what you think of that situation, but the way I see it, it's definitely not something I would want to really attempt to do. So the call after that one that I'm going to show you, this one is it's a city road, really, and it's 45 miles per hour, but because people tend to blow this stop sign a lot, it's a good thing that I had an officer obviously helping me with traffic control there, and my ambers were going as well. This is another situation where I think the officer's lights actually did way more than mine did here, because people were able to recognize this issue before they turned, because some people, as they're turning, they don't really look down the road. They're focusing on the actual turn that they're making, and I guess it is what it is. But when you have these flashing lights or Hi-Vis or whatnot, people can identify that situation possibly before they even make that turn. Now, I've shown on this channel before where I've been in between two active lanes of traffic, and the only thing that's really saving me there is well, there's a lot of luck, to be honest, and just the obvious if drivers are paying attention or not. So all in all, I haven't seen anything anywhere that would support any argument that says, oh, that Hi-Vis does not work. But I guess the thing that I would go and and live by is, yeah, wear it, use it, don't blind people, don't make it something that it's not, but also don't rely on it. So what do I mean by that? Well, don't walk up the side of your truck with your back facing traffic, leisurely, and just think in your head, oh yeah, no, I'm good because I got Hi-Vis. Yeah, that's probably not what you want to do, and that's not what I'm advocating here. I'm not saying that just because you have Hi-Vis that you're going to be, impervious to any kind of accident happening. But if you don't have them on and you're not using all of the equipment that you should be using, I think what you're really doing is you're taking a shortcut, and you're making it harder on yourself and putting yourself in much more danger than what you really should. So that's about it. There's not a lot of studies that actually go directly into the topic that I'm talking about. I wish there were, but it's really hard to tell and actually document every single time that the lights have worked, because, well, if the lights and the Hi-Vis worked, you're here to talk about something else, and it's just one of those things. We can only tell when something doesn't work, and unfortunately that doesn't really help us because we only have one side of the story. So tell me what you think. Do you think Hi-Vis actually makes a difference? If you're a record driver, tell me what you think. If you're construction, I want to hear from y'all. And yeah, just keep it friendly down in the comments. I'd hope, at least. And yeah, try and stay safe, and have a good one.